Let's look at another way to make your audio sound better with Adobe Premiere Pro. Back in our Effects tab under Audio Effects is an EQ effect called Equalization. Drag this onto any of your clips, and you'll see that a new effect with a custom setup button pops up in your effects and say Edit. We're going to click that Edit. A new window pops up, and this has all kinds of dials and things that if you were a pro sound guy or girl and you played with soundboards, you might understand what this means, but for a lot of you, you will not know what that means. And so I'm going to walk you through. So to understand what's going on, we have some different presets. Right now it's set to default. Let's switch it to Master EQ. What that does is it basically just checks all of these boxes right here. If we don't want to do that, we can just go from default and check all of these boxes. As we do that, you can see that these different points were added to this graph right here. On the left, we have the level, the decibels, the level of the audio, how loud it is. On the bottom, we have the hertz or the frequencies. So on the left, we have the lows, and on the right, we have the highs. Don't pay attention to anything down here right now. Let's just look at the graph first, because you can control everything right in this graph by clicking on these points and moving them down or up or left or right. If we move this point up, what's happening is the level of these frequencies right here are going to be louder. If we move it down, these frequencies are lower. And if we move to the right, it's editing all of the frequencies to the left and around 88 hertz, which you can see change right here. So do pay attention to that bottom dial right there. But it does it in a different way than our high pass or low pass filters that we added last time. The high pass and low pass, it's a specific cutoff point. It's 100 and below, and everything above 100 is free to go. For here, it's more of a, you see this, it's not a linear curve, it's a curved graph. And so it sounds a little bit more natural than just cutting it off at 50 or 100 or 200 or whatever. So the reason we would use this graph or this effect is to warm up our audio, to make it feel like it has more presence. And it's kind of hard to explain what that means but you want your audio to sound full. And sometimes when you're recording with your camera and your microphone, it just doesn't sound full. It doesn't sound like you're sitting there with that person and you're hearing all of their voice. So we can play around with some of these levels, especially the lower levels between 200 and 1000K. Just by increasing those, that can make the audio sound a little bit better. You see, as I increase this one, we have sort of a small peak right here. So it's affecting those frequencies right around 200 most. But then once we get up to 500 or down to 100, it's not really affecting those as much. We can make it affect a wider range of frequencies by clicking on these small dots to the left or right and dragging to the left or right. You see that the hill becomes bigger. That means it's affecting more frequencies. And the reason why we have this is, say you want to edit a very specific set of frequencies. Maybe you have an air conditioner on and it's making a really loud noise right around 5,000 hertz. You can edit just a very small amount with a small gap, something like that at a very specific frequency. Most of us, we're not going to be doing that, but it is there for those of you who have some more professional editing that you want to do. In general, I just boost some of these and then maybe I take the ones up here and on the left and right down. Know though that if we already have the low pass on, anything above 5500 is already cut off. So editing these ones over here on the right hand side, it's redundant. But if you don't have the low pass or the high pass filters on, then dropping down some of these high frequencies and some of these low frequencies over here might be a good thing. Finally, you can pay attention to these dials. These are just another way to control what's going on up here. I think it's easier to just click and move around up here, but you can adjust them down here. So if we want to adjust the gain, we can adjust the gain of all of these different points by clicking and dragging to the left or right. This first row is the frequency. And the last one is that basically the width of the graph. How much is it affecting around that frequency? We can also change these first points to a cut. So if we don't want to add the low pass and the high pass filters, we can just cut out all the frequencies below 36 hertz, or we can move this up to 100. And this one down to 5500 or whatever we want, just with this EQ effect. There's also this output gain. This will increase or decrease the audio for the entire clip with these same effects. So say we increase the middle frequencies, but that makes it a little bit too loud. We can then compensate by adjusting the output just a bit. There's also some defaults that you want to pay attention to. These sometimes work for me. Warm presence is one that might work a little bit more than the others. Play around with the 1940s. That one sounds like an old 1940s radio. They are some cool presets to use. And while you're editing, you want to make sure that you're monitoring. So whatever you're doing up here will affect how it sounds when you play through this clip. But once you're past this clip, it's not going to affect this clip anymore because this EQ effect is just on this clip right here. When you're done, just click that red X and you're good to go. If you want though, you can easily copy and paste any of these effects to any of these other clips. So if you edit this first clip with EQ, you probably want to do the same thing for the rest of these clips. So you can just select that effect from this clip, copy it by pressing Command C on your keyboard, and then selecting any of the other clips you want to add it to, and press Paste, Command V, Control V if you're on a PC. And now if I go to a specific clip over here, you have this EQ effect added, and you can do that with any of these effects. I'm undoing it right now, but you can do it with the high pass, low pass, any of them. And next we're going to look at this and how you do it to an entire track using the audio track mixer in the next video.